How you doing, everybody? Welcome to tonight's post-game show. This was a brutal one here tonight. Not really sure what to say about this one tonight. I watched this entire game on playback tonight. In case you don't know what playback is, that is where you can go watch the game with me. If you have MLB TV, all you got to do is download playback and just connect your MLB TV account to it, and you can literally watch the game with me. Pretty cool experience, but it's not that great when the Red Sox are putting just a poor performance onto the field here tonight. I absolutely hated the approach tonight. Here's the thing. Okay, I have been saying the last couple of games, the Red Sox, they should be trying to focus on making contact. That's been the thing that I think has helped the Blue Jays more in the first couple of games. They're getting the bat on the ball. I like the approach of being aggressive and really trying to, put a good amount of swings out there. But if you're going to do that, you got to make contact, right? Especially going up against Kevin Gausman, who has absolutely owned the Red Sox in his career. He was unbelievable tonight. He always dominates the Red Sox. I don't know. I just felt like this was a guy, he was just toying with the Red Sox tonight. He just had everything working. This guy was going in and out of the zone. He was changing eye levels. He was using the fastball and the splitter combination. Wonderful tonight. Getting a lot of whiffs on the fastball tonight, using the splitter perfectly, just down below the strike zone, just setting up these batters and taking them to town, man. Give a lot of credit to Kevin Gausman. He pitched great tonight. He took full advantage of the Red Sox approach. I think the Red Sox just went in there tonight with a certain mindset, a certain approach. They were looking to make contact. They were looking to make a lot of swings. It just didn't work out. But where I'm very frustrated with the Red Sox tonight is you just didn't make the adjustments during the game. You let Kevin Gausman go through 8 innings, and he was throwing pitches out of the zone, and they're just swinging and missing at him. So many whiffs, so many swing and misses out of the zone that would have resulted in a lot of balls. I just felt like you could have just worked Gausman a little bit more. What do I know? I'm a doofus that sits at my desk. I'm not up there, saying, what's the right way. But to me, if I'm seeing something that's not working and you keep trying to go, for that same approach, to me, you got to switch something up, and I think the teams in these kind of games, in these low-scoring games, the teams that make the adjustments in-game are the teams that usually tend to come away with the win. And for the Blue Jays, give them a little credit. They did, once again, just enough, right, to get by the Red Sox. In the first couple of games, making just a bit more contact, putting the ball in play a bit more, right? And in the end, they get the wins. The Red Sox, they tried to do that tonight, and it just didn't work out. A lot of credit to Kevin Gausman here. But, Tanner Houck, give him a lot of credit, man. This guy dug in against a very good veteran guy like Gausman, who has owned the Red Sox in his career. Tanner Houck with the best start of the year in 2025 here. He looked like Tanner Houck from last year. Not really a dominant, honestly, when you look at the outing from Tanner Houck tonight, it was pretty much the opposite of Kevin Gausman, a guy that was pitching more to contact tonight. And that is what I've been saying, over the last couple of games, try to induce that weak contact on a cold night. If you take a look, with Garrett Crochet, that's a guy that relies on stuff. And when he doesn't have the feel for the ball, you're going to, not have your best Garrett Crochet. But with Tanner Houck tonight, this is a guy where he's talked about in the past, he's just looking to play catch up there. He was just throwing the sweepers, throwing the sinkers, just getting that weak contact. And that, I think, is finally an approach that Tanner Houck has finally found. I think this is going to be a good step in the right direction after a couple of inconsistent starts. So I'm very high on Tanner Houck moving forward. Really like that start for him tonight. But in the end, also give credit to the bullpen. In the end, you had the ghost runner there in the 11th inning, Winkowski. Winkowski hasn't been amazing, going back to last year, but you let the inherited runner score last night, and then but for the most part, he was fine last night, coming in for a second straight night. He did pretty well, but when you got the ghost runner, you can't really make there's not a lot of wiggle room to play with there, right? So, but credit to the bullpen tonight. I thought they did well in the end. Just the offense did not help them out. Not going to be a long post game tonight. Just going to do a couple of quick breakdowns, especially when there's not really a whole lot of offense to talk about. You've pretty much already heard my piece. But before I dive into the breakdown, let's get to tonight's sponsor, and I'll let the guys over at Foul Territory take over on that.
FT fam, you gotta check out what Harry's brings to the table. And I hope that if you're listening to this, you check out the video version of this conversation at some point, because that razor, Eric Kratz, looks like it stands out for multiple reasons.
I mean, I'll take the cover off. All these blades, each one of them ridiculously sharp, meant for a nice smoothness here and up there.
German engineered blades made in their own factory. They stay sharp longer. Okay. You've got customizable delivery options. Harry stands out for the sharpness, for the pricing, for the variety. And you can get a 5-blade razor, a weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover for just $3 at harrys.com/foul. Get the edge on your shave with Harry's. Normally their trial set's $13 right now. You can get it for just $3 at harrys.com/foul. That's our exclusive FT link. harrys.com/foul for a $3 trial set.
All right, go check out Harry's. They got a good deal going right now. $3 for a starter pack. That's not bad at all. Go check out Harry's. Let's get to it here. Tanner Houck, let's get to the breakdown for him tonight. Again, best start of the year for Tanner Houck so far. 90 pitches in all tonight, leading with the sinker, which again, I think is a great approach on a cold night. Really just pitch to the contact. When you're Kevin Gausman, I mean, that's a different story. We'll talk about him in just a second. But with Houck, just pitching to contact, 38 sinkers on the night, 33 sweepers as well. And he mixed in some splitters, so he used 3 pitches for the most part tonight. His sinker was actually doing a lot better than it was his last time, or a little better than last time out. But that was pretty much the name of the game. Just getting these guys to just make that contact, get that weak contact. He had a couple of key ground balls, had a double play along the way. Tanner Houck, man. Hey, good night for him. Again, very excited about just what we're going to be seeing from him moving forward. I think he might have found something that worked. But again, I think he also just made the adjustment with the elements here tonight on a cold night. This is how I think, unless you're Kevin Gausman against the Red Sox, this is how I think you just got to go at it. So, Tanner Houck. But let's take a look at what Kevin Gausman, what worked for him. I mean, this is the crazy thing about Kevin Gausman tonight. He led with 2 pitches. That's it. He threw a few sliders along the way, but he went with a fastball and a splitter. That's it. He threw 2 pitches, and the Red Sox just couldn't figure it out. If you take a look at the stuff, you take a look at the spin rate compared to his yearly average in his first couple of starts, he was actually kind of down. But I think the key for Gausman tonight was he was just changing eye levels. He was going just out of the zone to where it looked close enough, and the Red Sox were trying to go hacking. And he was just playing with him. He was toying with him tonight. I think that's just what a good veteran pitcher does, man. With Gausman, you saw the stuff last year with him dwindled a bit. So, when you're kind of starting to get to that point in your career where stuff is going down a little bit, that's what you got to do. You got to change the eye levels, right? You got to go a little in and out of the zone. He was doing that with 2 pitches tonight. That is bonkers. Give a lot of credit to Gausman, man. That was a veteran pitching performance tonight. Veteran pitching performance. I mean, if you even take a look at kind of where he was at, fastball, he was in the zone 57% of the time, but he was also getting 48% on the outside swing percentage. I mean, he was just in complete control. He was getting a 67% zone swing percentage. They just couldn't pick up the fastball at all. And when it came to the splitter, another thing with the splitter with him was that he was throwing them in the zone quite a bit. He was getting some good calls. Like, he was just placing his pitches perfectly. The command, the control was just dominant with him tonight. A lot of credit to Kevin Gausman. Now, when it came to the offense here, again, like I said, not really a whole lot to talk about here, but it's just kind of recapping here. The Red Sox, they did start off hot. The approach that they took was working in the early going, right? Duran got the base hit to start things off. He stole second. You're like, okay, all right, Red Sox offense is cooking here. Let's go. Then you got the Bregman sack fly, and you're thinking, all right, we're off to a much better start, right? You would have liked to have maybe seen a little bit more, but I was okay with that against Kevin Gausman, especially with the history against him. Fourth inning. However, this is where after the first inning, everything just kind of came off the rails. It's like they saw that they got to Gausman in the first inning a little bit there, and they just kept trying to stay that route. And it's like they were just hoping and praying for something to come out of it. But I think Gausman just realized at that point, I think he just saw something, and he just dialed in, and he just settled in for the rest of the night. You had a couple of things going along the way. Raffy had the double in the fourth inning, but then he had 3 strikeouts. Again, that was a very frustrating inning because there were pitches that Gausman was making that were out of the zone. If you had just taken a few more pitches, I think at that point in the game, the key, since Gausman had settled in a little bit, I felt like they should have just gone to more of a patient approach. And they didn't do that. They just kind of stayed the course, right? 6th inning, couple of Ks for Narvaez and Duran. And then Raffy with another double, but Bregman with the ground out. 8th inning, they were cooking a little bit. Christian Campbell, he did just stick out the bat just enough, made just enough good contact for the ball to get by Bichette. Bichette, not the greatest range with him at shortstop. I guarantee if you had a better shortstop out there, that probably would have had a better chance of being an out. So luckily you had Bichette there, but again, not able to come up with anything. Hamilton with the fly out and then Narvaez with the double play. Narvaez, sure, a lot of people have been calling for Narvaez, the early going of the year to be that starting catcher since Wong was off to a terrible start. But at the end of the day, Carlos Narvaez, this is a guy where, you're not expecting him to carry you to the promised land. So just unfortunate with the double play there. And that was the end of Kevin Gausman's night. I really thought Gausman was probably, going to go for a complete game at that point. Honestly, he probably could have. 10th inning, right? You had the ghost runner there. Hey, Tristan Casas, right? You're still waiting for him to break out a little bit, but he really just did his job there. Just stuck out the bat, ground ball to the right side onto second base and moved the runner over to third. So at that point, there was your shot. And he just couldn't do it, right? Trevor Story, strikeout. Jeff Hoffman came in for the 9th inning. This is what I think the play of the game was. Play of the game was right here in the 10th inning. Can you guess what the play of the game was? It was the intentional walk to Wilyer Abreu. That guy's been magic so far in the beginning of the year. Going back to the Rangers, right? Walk off against the Cardinals. Best move the Blue Jays could have made was intentionally walking that guy. No reason to even go up against that guy. And then Christian Campbell, I think he was just trying to make up, for he had a key moment where he had a strikeout earlier in the game. I think this guy was just going up there hacking, trying to send the Fenway crowd home happy. And, he did make some good swings there, but he just came up with a strikeout. And the Blue Jays, right? Just getting it done there in the top of the 11th. Hey, move the runner over, get the runner home on the sac fly. That's what it is. The Blue Jays, like I don't even want to say, I don't want to, put down Blue Jays fans, but honestly, I think the Red Sox, they just shot themselves in the foot so many times, but give all the credit to the Blue Jays for just prevailing in the end. Hey, if you want to win ball games, you're going to have to figure out a way to just find a way to win in the end. And the Blue Jays, they hung tough until that very point, and they got the run home. So that's pretty much it, everybody. Not really a whole lot to talk about. Very frustrating night for the Red Sox tonight. So tomorrow, they're looking to avoid the sweep. Remember, it is a 4-game series, so game 4 tomorrow. Let's take a look here at the matchup. And listen, you're taking a look here at this matchup, and you're kind of hoping for the best here. Walker Buehler has not looked right in the first couple of starts. He's had his moments where he's looked pretty good, but then there's the other times where he's just getting hit hard. But Chris Bassett, off to a great start. He's looked fantastic in his first couple of starts. ERA at 0.71. Strikeout rate is way up with Chris Bassett so far this year. However, this is where I'm going to say, I think you might feel pretty good if you're the Red Sox tomorrow. You got some guys that have had a lot of experience against Bassett. And I think that could go in their favor, right? You got Bregman, 24 ABs against Bassett in his career, 865 OPS. Wilyer Abreu, 10 ABs, has a 1,000 OPS. Even Casas, only a few at-bats, has a home run against him. Devers, a lot of success against Chris Bassett, hitting 500 against him in his career with 3 home runs. Very nice to see. There's a lot of guys here that have seen Bassett quite a bit. And when it comes to Walker Buehler against the Blue Jays, not a whole lot of experience on that side. I am expecting a Red Sox win. They need to dig deep tomorrow. Walker Buehler needs to find his form. And they need to just take that experience against Bassett and really just go after it tomorrow, right? You've seen this guy a lot. Yes, he's off to a good start, but they need to get into whatever, they need to look at the scouting reports for tomorrow, and they need to, I think, let's get a better approach for the entire game. Let's kind of get in there, and sure, you got off to the good start today, but you need to make those adjustments as the game goes on. I get it. Kevin Gausman is freaking Kevin Gausman. It's probably very hard to make adjustments against that guy, but it felt like maybe you could have taken a few more pitches. Maybe you could have been a little bit more patient. I've seen that before. How many times where you see a guy just settle in and it's like you feel like teams so many times they just keep going that same approach. And it's like you got to make those adjustments, man. So I don't know. Maybe Gausman, he's just always going to dominate the Red Sox. There's nothing you can do. But everybody, that's all I got here for the post game tonight. Very frustrating. Let me know all your thoughts. Rant to me down below in the comments. I'm in a kind of a ranting mood, to be honest. I see a couple of you in the chat here. I see you from Mason saying Trevor has to be traded. Just bring up Meyer at this point. Still too early. Remember, it is April 9th at the end of the day. I know we're ranting here. We're frustrated right now, but it is April 9th at the end of the day. You'd like to have seen the Red Sox to get the win tonight and go for the split tomorrow, but yeah, it's baseball. What can you do? But Trevor Story, and I was talking about this during the playback stream. I think with Story, man, yeah, he's, strike out there tonight, very frustrating. But it's not the time to go to Meyer, in my opinion. I know, but I honestly think if he just does enough, I think you'll end up seeing him being the shortstop for the rest of the year, to be honest. And then they just figure out what to do in the offseason. However, if he really, just can't find his way, if we're like a couple of months in, honestly, with Story, you're looking at the numbers so far with him. It's not an absolutely terrible start. You'd like to see a little bit more. I mean, he's hitting 250. OPS just under a 700. He has a couple of homers, a couple of stolen bases, but he's playing good defense out there. You'd like to have a veteran guy like Trevor Story at shortstop. So, yeah, these numbers are not bad enough at this point to be calling for Marcelo Meyer. However, another month, another couple months, give Myers more at-bats down in AAA. If Trevor Story, if we're seeing him kind of hovering around that, 220 mark with the batting average, OPS looking a little low, then maybe you could see Meyer start to get a little bit more playing time. But Trevor Story, I just don't think with the contract, I don't know. I think it's going to be too difficult to move during the season. I could see maybe in the offseason, it's still too early. I don't think we should be getting crazy here and calling for Meyer to be called up. Yeah, I know it's a tough start. With Story striking out like that in a pivotal moment. But, it's baseball. It's going to happen. But everybody, I'm out of here. Thank you for joining me for the post game tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night. Hopefully the Red Sox can salvage the series, pick up a win. Everybody, go have yourself a good rest of your night, and I'll talk to you next time.